And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in this world. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to give it a few minutes for everyone to pile in as we are getting ready to kick off this product roadmap review here at Reversing Labs. So a few minutes, we'll get started. So let's go ahead and get started on this. We're going to quickly cover who we are, give a quick overview of our technological positionings. Actually, I did remove that slide. Never mind, because we have so much product release. I did remove that slide. So we're going to do about Reversing Labs, go into the malware analysis and threat hunting updates, software supply chain security update, as well as what is coming as we attempt to work with the world and show everything that's coming. We want to make sure everyone sees it. There's my photo. Here we are. These are speakers. My name is Richard Melick. I'm the Senior Director, Head of Product Marketing over here at Reversing Labs. Mr. Eirk Thoen, with your wonderfully beautiful new headshot. Say hello to the world.
Happy to be here, VP Product Management.
You've been here 4 years, 4.5 years?
That's right.
Good amount of time. So he's seen it all. He's seen the progress that we have made with our products. He has driven most of it. And I'm very excited to be doing this webinar with him on a quarterly basis. So let's get started with our just our mission statement. Trust is earned with the best teams driving dedication and product quality and customer experiences. This is something that this is an ethos that we are standing by when it comes to our product engagement, listening to our customers, their feedback. There's been some great feedback from a wide number of customers where we are hearing them and saying, okay, hey, this is a great workflow that you would like to address. We go through the quality control testings and work it out, as well as we've been listening to our customers and how you all have been using our product. This has been a really amazing space. When you have a tool set and solutions that are as powerful as what we provide, there's always our research that goes into our products and how we see the products going to be used in the market. And then there's the actual use case. And it is amazing to see some of these use cases coming back to us. We want to deliver trust to you, and we hope that you all trust us to come back and provide us with the feedback that we need to continue to provide a quality product for you to use on all of our solutions. So if this is your first interaction with Reversing Labs, just quickly introduce us. We have two headquarters, one in Zagreb, Croatia, and the other one in Cambridge, Boston, up in the United States. That's where Eirk is located. We're distributed and connected. We've got some dots representing roughly where we all are. We've got members in the UK, all over the United States, and of course in Croatia and Boston, heavy workflow there, as well as 24/7 support for all of our customers through our TAM services. We're established. 14 years of mission-driven solutions being provided out to the cybersecurity market, as well as powering and maintaining the world's largest threat repository with, last I checked yesterday, 35 billion goodware and malware files at the disposal for research purposes. That's an incredible amount when we talk about the database. As a matter of fact, I think the prediction is that we are 7 times the size of VirusTotal when it comes to your malware analysis and threat hunting. Now, what we do with that kind of database, with that capability, that's shown through our products with malware analysis, threat hunting, as well as our software supply chain security. You need the data in order to understand the threats, understand the risks, understand the vulnerabilities. And without that data, without that understanding, you cannot get to that point. And of course, it's not the only thing we do, but it is the foundational component of it. So without further ado, I'm going to kick off the 2 big releases that we had over the last 3 months, or 2 of the bigger releases that we had. The first one is on the Reversing Labs A1000 threat analysis and hunting solution. This is version 8.2. Alongside addressing some customer requests, as I said, we do listen to that feedback. We delivered improvements with a static analysis, expanding the dynamic and network analysis capabilities, and delivering some major improvements to the workflow and user experience. The first one up is the cloud summary pages. In the world of file analysis, data is king. In previous iterations of our cloud summary page, users encountered a substantial disparity when comparing data between the cloud and the local samples. And the data just wasn't enough. It didn't go deep enough. We wanted to address that. The newest version of Reversing Labs A1000 8.2, we're addressing that gap. Users now have the ability to preview any cloud sample and access additional metadata, regardless of whether the file size exceeds 400 megabytes or if the sample is marked as private. This updated feature provides users with a comprehensive overview of any sample available on the ReversingLabs Titanium cloud. 35 billion files at your disposal. That's a very large accessibility option. Not only does this enhance usability and triage productivity, but it also enables users to preview the cloud samples before committing to downloading them locally, preventing you from having to download anything that's excessively large when you're doing the file analysis. Second up on that one is Titanium Cloud search results. We brought some enhancements up here, ensuring that users receive results faster than ever before. We've streamlined the experience, making queries more consistent when they needed to be rerun, and we've introduced filters in this release. These filters include submission time, last seen, and first seen, providing users the option to delve deeper into the older data for additional results. Sometimes that historical context can provide you that critical information that you need to understand that threat more. Now, these feature updates within the search results improve the speed and consistency when searching through our extensive cloud sample library, translating into increased productivity, usability, and most importantly, confidence and trust when exploring the vast array of samples at your disposal. Final big one that on the A1000 side is the Yara test run. This is a very cool feature. I've just started to get into it a little bit myself, just playing around with it because that's what I do in my free time. The Yara test run feature is designed to save our customers valuable development time and enhancement when it comes to their overall Yara experience. Within A1000, you'll find a new rule or test rule set option available in the action menu within the Yara section, and also in the Yara editor when creating these new rule sets. This feature enables users to select up to 5 tags to load local samples, and then test a rule set against a curated subset of up to 100 local samples. This targeted approach not only significantly speeds up the rule validation process, but also simplifies it by narrowing down the results to samples that matter most to you. The result? Increased time, productivity, and usability for all of our A1000 users. Of course, we've got some important but not as major updates. Expanded row design has offered a new way to navigate when previewing samples. And we did a login page redesign supporting SSO and general workflows for appliance users. Did I miss anything on the A1000 8.2 there, Eric?
There was a lot, but you got it. Great.
There was a lot. Okay, another one that has a lot to go through is ReversingLabs Titanium Scale version 3.4. I will apologize in advance. Sometimes I say Scale. It's the product name is Titanium Scale. As something I need to work on. So if you hear me say Scale, you know what I'm talking about. As part of this latest release of Titanium Scale version 3.4, we've updated our C1000 Central Manager to deliver the critical management information through APIs, supporting automated deployment, configuration, and update of multiple appliances, ensuring consistency and saving time. This enables seamless migration of data and functionalities for enterprise needs and minimal disruption to business operations. So let's explore some of these updates on the API side. We have appliance management. The functionality allows you to automate the entire lifecycle of appliances. This includes the seamless creation, authorization, removal, and listing of appliances, saving time, effort, energy through the automation side. Appliance updates. With this capability, you can automate the process of upgrading both C1000 and all connected appliances to the latest versions. It's never been easier to keep everything up to date. We have administration of the C1000 appliances. Functionality provides a means to manage various aspects of your C1000 appliance through APIs. The handling, authentication, and user management to managing tokens, backups, and other miscellaneous C1000 settings are all within your reach and automation possible. And finally, central configuration allows you to automate the configuration of connected appliances and configuration groups. This ensures that your infrastructure is always aligned with your requirements easily. Very big workflow improvements. On the report side, We've had several additions to the titanium scale report types, delivering new, more sorry, delivering new report types, enabling higher post-processing speed and smaller report sizes. So speed and efficiency is critical here. Additionally, report metadata may now be dynamically configured when submitting files for analysis using APIs, providing more granular control over file analysis pipeline. The new report types have been introduced to optimize performance, resulting in reduced report size and faster post-processing speed. You can now select small, medium, or large report types when you are looking for the report that you'd like to view. Finally, we've got some custom report views, content improvements, and C1000 browser tab updates that were put into the user experience and infrastructure stuff. Get really into the weeds of this one because it is more of a technical one. I would highly recommend, if you are a titanium scale customer, to look at the release notes that are in your console. So anything big I miss on that one, Mr.
Conceptually, I'm really excited about the APIs because we developed them in coordination with one of our largest customers. And as the name indicates, titanium scale can handle just a massive amount of files. And this particular customer has a deployment that's global at many different locations. And what those APIs are allowing them to do is to basically recover under a variety of different conditions, refresh, and be able to manage the entire infrastructure in a highly automated and scripted way. So it's sort of been proven out with one of our biggest customers, and I think it demonstrates how well you can deploy this across a wide range of needs.
I love the increase of API access for that purpose because it puts such a powerful tool in a more accessible position for customers of all sizes. And as organizations are exploring their security stacks and workflows and, not necessarily cost-cutting measures, but efficiency measures, this is one where if they are a titanium scale customer, they can look at this and say, we can integrate here, we can manage workflows this way and still get the full breadth and capabilities that titanium scale provides without necessarily having to add another tool that they have to manage directly. So it's always fantastic to see that kind of improvement. I'm going to pass it over to you, Mr. Eirk, on the network reputation API side, though.
Absolutely. So another one of our products is ReversingLabs Titanium Cloud. This is essentially an API surface to access all the rich data and threat intelligence that we collect and obtain and then analyze for our customers. One of the themes that we've had over the last year is to improve network data that we can provide to our customers. And so in this particular case, what we're adding is an additional API. We call it TCAO 407, the Network Reputation API, which provides a very simple classification of either a URL, domain, or IP address. And the reason you do this is that so many threats that customers encounter are delivered through the network. Either you originally receive that threat via a network address or something from the web, or it might be exfiltrating data. So there's a number of different dimensions that you have to be thinking about in terms of your threat surface, and networking is a very important way to be able to distinguish those, and often turns into a control as well. So one of the things that our customers have asked for here is being able to interpret network intelligence. I have a bunch of data about these various domains, IPs, and URLs. Should I worry about that? Are they bad? Are they good? Similar to what we do on the file side of the house is here we provide a definitive and simple classification for any of those different types of network locations. So that becomes very powerful to our customers, because what often happens with other solutions is they aggregate results from many other solutions and they have to interpret, well, some said it was good, some said it was bad, some didn't know. What do I do? Similar to what we do on the file side is we've developed algorithms that combine data that we have from many different sources, from file analysis that we do, to determine if a particular URL, domain, or IP is malicious or not. And then you can use that determination to be able to improve controls within your domain. The other thing that we did as part of this is to consider it in an overall workflow, which is illustrated on the right-hand side. So this is something we've been building out over time. What we just added was the item on top, which is actually the starting point for this. So what happens is if you have a URL, domain, or IP that you want to query in some way, or interested in understanding if it might be good or bad, you can start with our network reputation API. Gives you a simple answer. If you want to learn more, we actually have a set of APIs that expand out that information and can provide significantly more metadata and context related to those. One of the things we excel at in general is having a tremendous amount of data in so many different categories. And so what this workflow is doing is allowing someone to gradually surface more and more data, depending on where it is in your analysis cycle. So the simple answer might allow you to decide if a user should access or not access a particular website, for instance. If it's been noted by your SOC that a website appears to be bad and you want to understand more about that, then you can go to the next level and start to gather more metadata from the various APIs that we offer. If we don't have data, well, you can also take the third step that's shown here, which is to have us analyze that URL. One of the things that's important to note in terms of the way that we approach networking, which is very different than a lot of the other solutions out there, is that when we go to one of these sites, we actually download files from the site, but then we analyze them using our file analysis engine, which is very unique in terms of its capabilities, which means that the insights that we have related to the completeness of analysis of those files, as well as the number and layers that we will analyze, tends to be much more comprehensive. So if you want to dig into a particular domain URL or IP, we have a great workflow to allow you to be able to do that. And so by introducing this final API and this overall workflow, it's sort of an end-to-end possibility in terms of being able to educate our customers and provide intelligence insights on these sort of networking items. So that's our update in terms of network reputation. We'll continue to invest in the roadmap in more networking aspects. A lot of that will resolve around enhancing various of these APIs with either more metadata or more higher quality data. So that'll continue to be an area of investment for us. We're talking about it here in the context of our Titanium Cloud product, but this richness will also kind of percolate throughout the rest of the portfolio. So you'll see it later in the A1000 that Richard was talking about, sort of our threat hunting workbench, as well as in Titanium Scale, our high volume analysis platform. So this is something that kind of enriches the entire portfolio over time, but is immediately accessible through the APIs that we have today. And we have several customers that are starting to test these now. So it's a great time to jump on board and kind of experience this workflow as well.
I just want to comment. I remember 15 years ago getting my start in cybersecurity, and we had a team that manually did all of this. Had to go to the webpage, download all the assets, classify everything, and it is incredible to see how technology has progressed to the point that, think of how big the web is now, and how interconnected everything is, how link driven it is. It's always fun to see, what used to be manual is now automated to save time, save energy. And I think about even how this is going to impact the SOC, right? You're getting that data that is critical and necessary in there to make that decision of, should we be allowing access to that site? Wait a second. No, this isn't there. It's actually a good question that comes up that's relevant right now. What are the highest importance features that indicate if an IP or domain is malicious?
So we use a number of different factors, and as we're talking about here, we look at both URL, domain, as well as IP address, and we do things a little bit differently based on all those. But oftentimes, when we present that data, we will factor in all of it. So you might have an IP address. If we see that IP address has been used on previous domains that had malicious files hosted there, that will be an indicator that will drive our classification engine toward that. Similar thing in terms of domain. It might cover many subdomains as well. So our algorithm will consider data from all of those potential references, and it'll also consider data from multiple sources. Where we often see differentiation is with the file analysis that we do. A lot of the other solutions out there won't tend to look as deeply into the files that might be hosted in some of these areas. And so it ties to one of our overarching differentiators as a company. The static analysis engine that we produce can handle a much larger range of file types and unpack a larger range of different packers as well. So we can detect things no one else can. So if those things are hosted on any of these IPs, domains, or URLs, we often find something that other solutions don't. So when we enrich that other data with this sort of file-specific data, we tend to see differentiators in terms of the way that we can classify.
I like that latter point where you're talking about the file classification, Eirk, because it gets into the notion of a lot of the other vendors out there that are providing this service are just doing a lookup to known repositories, known goodware, known badware repositories. Is this MD5 something we've seen before? Yes, no. Yes, is it good? Is it bad? Make that determination to deliver it back. But by doing the binary analysis on the files, where if it's a net new file, you're actually getting the details quickly if there is malicious packages that are revealed on that domain. So it is a big differentiator in that part.
So next, let's pivot over to our software supply chain solution. And we've done a number of different updates here. I'll talk about two in the next two slides, and several more that are on the roadmap right now. But in particular, focus in on some CI/CD integrations. So our software supply chain solution allows you as either a software producer to evaluate whether the software you're about to release is good or not. And with the range of supply chain attacks that have been happening, what has occurred is that those attacks can happen anywhere within the pipeline. And there's a very wide range of them. There's been a lot of documentation about this in different phases. Our approach is to say, hey, you should analyze the software before you ship it. You should do that before you release it, but you should also start shifting left because it means you'll detect problems sooner. And that typically increases or decreases the amount of effort that you have to do to be able to fix that as a software publisher. So when we think about how you might do that, you think about the existing pipelines that exist within software publishers. And practically what we encounter when we talk to different customers is that there's a very wide range of different types of tools that people will use from a DevOps perspective to be able to construct and automate the production of their software. So what we have to do to make sure it's very simple to consume our solution is to make sure that we can integrate with a variety of these different types of tools. So recognizing that these attacks could happen anywhere, we want to get further to the left, be embedded within the tools that you're using. And so what we've done is start to produce a range of different tools, and we will continue to expand this in terms of the way that we will start to integrate. The ones that are shown here are a couple different flavors that are popular. To level set in terms of our solution, our SSCS solution has a number of deployment form factors. It can be deployed on-prem using a CLI. It can also be used hosted by us as a SaaS portal. Depending on the particular user, they will use it in different ways. So we have a lot of flexibility in how we can deploy. When you do deploy within your CI/CD, let's say locally, one of the things that's very common would be a GitHub infrastructure. So one of the first ones that we have highlighted here is that we recently released a number of different GitHub actions. You can basically take these actions, incorporate them into your GitHub workflow, and they can essentially act as a method to be able to initiate a scan using our SSCS solution, and then take that resulting report. You could key it in to your infrastructure to decide if you want to pass or fail based on the outcomes from that report. And then you can also collect the information that we have in the report for later actions. But this is essentially kind of point and click within the GitHub infrastructure to allow you to pick these actions and create them. Along with having this as a GitHub action within their marketplace, we also provide the code on our GitHub repositories. You can actually look and see how we were using it, how we would leverage our Docker image in this context. And so you could actually adapt it if the particular action that we've produced doesn't meet or you want to tailor to your particular needs. So we want to be very flexible in terms of the way that we can produce these types of integrations. So GitHub, a big one, lots of people are using it, lots of requests for it. So now we're available right there where you can just see it publicly. Another one that's very popular is Jenkins. One of the things we highlight here, again, using our CLI integration within the ReversingLabs GitHub, we have some examples, and we have these here both for Jenkins as well as TeamCity, on how within sort of a standard Struts 2 example, how you would integrate with Jenkins. So if you go to these GitHub locations, you can actually try out this code. So everything's public. You can try it out and see how it works and see how it would work with Jenkins. as well as Team City. Again, these are two other tool sets that we often encounter with our customers, and showing them how it works in an environment allows them to then adapt to their needs or just copy as is. It's certainly up to you in terms of what works the easiest. And we've had a number of customers that have started to deploy in all three of these types of environments. The flexibility that we have in using the CLI and scripting around it on-prem is very high. So it's pretty easy to extend and modify the sort of examples that we've given, but they form a sort of template that you can use to be able to work from there. As we sort of look forward, the next ones that are coming are Azure DevOps as well. So it's another very popular one that we've been working on. So that'll be coming soon as well for people to see. But we'll continue this motion when it comes to the CLI, because what we find is when people deploy this, they want to tailor to their particular environment. So that's sort of on the CLI and on-prem tooling. Down at the bottom, we've also introduced what we call portal APIs. So this graphical user interface that we host within our cloud, we refer to as the portal. It also has an API surface. So if instead of running locally on your local runners or your local infrastructure, you can actually use an API to send something to us. It'll appear in the portal, be analyzed, and then it can return values via that API surface. So this sort of SaaS solution means there's really no significant work on your part in terms of bringing up particular systems, deploying things, or anything like that. Eventually, what will also happen from a roadmap perspective is we will unify using those APIs to allow more functionality. Right now, it's basically a REST API surface that you can leverage. We will also be using that same API surface to provide graphical user interface integrations. So the top three, we're talking about using the CLI and scripting in your environment. The bottom one will start to serve as a platform for simply point and click to your infrastructure and then start to configure. So that's sort of what's coming now that that API surface is done. What the benefits really are of all of this is that, as I was saying, by moving left and by automating, what it means is you can introduce the sort of checks that we provide early in your development process. And if a problem comes up, if there is a compromise, if there is an integrity issue of some sort, you'll detect that early and can modify it. By automating, you remove just the standard process of manually uploading and creating manual workflows. So automation by itself, whether it's on the release as the final step or further to the left, certainly benefits all our customers. And then finally, by sort of publicly exposing what we do and offering the source code that we're creating for this type of scripting, you can easily modify and learn from that. And so it makes it very easy for you as a customer to be able to tune this to your particular needs. So exciting here, because I think what this does is removes a lot of friction in terms of the adoption of our solution, so that when we go into a customer, they can turn things on right away and start to see value immediately from our solutions.
I'm feeling like this was the theme, the unofficial theme of the quarter with all the updates that we've been talking about. And I didn't realize it until we actually started talking about it in this whole webinar, seeing it all come together. It's like, oh, that's ease of access. Oh, that's ease of access. Oh, that's ease of access. It's kind of fun how that kind of comes together.
Definitely.
Speaking of accessing files.
That's right. So another update that we've done for SSCS is to create a feature, and this is within the portal interface that we're showing here, that allows users to download approved software. So let me step back for a second and talk about some of the workflows that we see in our solution. And these workflows apply both to publishers, but also to consumers of software. So this is sort of an interesting aspect of our SSCS solution. In the previous slide, I was talking about CI/CD pipelines, all the stuff that publishers make. And it's important to scan software before you ship it. You want to approve software before you ship it. So that kind of makes sense as a baseline. It's also our solution can also be used by consumers of external COTS or open source or other software to analyze the software and decide whether or not to approve it, and then allow IT or users to be able to download and install the software. So this is essentially a workflow that allows either consumers or producers of software to control that release of software by using this sort of download function. So the way this workflow works is there's an initial step that allows users to approve software. So you upload or use CI/CD to get software into our solution. We scan that software, do our analysis. If we find issues, you want to fix it or you don't want to approve it. You'd reject it. The software is too risky to deploy. If you do approve it, now we have a workflow within our solution where you can do that approval. And then what happens after that approval is there is now an option that uncovers to allow someone to download it. Before you do that approval, you can't get that download. So it serves as a control in the process. And as I said, you could either use this on the publisher side, if in the final steps of your release process, you want to use our solution to go through approvals before the next person in line might download it and host it somewhere, or someone might download it and take it and distribute it out to your customers. Or on the consumer side, where you in the AppSec or the SOC security function might scan software before you approve it for distribution to IT and then out to the rest of the laptops or servers that might exist within your domain. So it's a consumer use case in that sense, as well as a publisher use case. The reason we're doing, oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I always relate it back to my time in the SOC. I like the consumer use case because now we're verifying or qualifying that we are deploying out the approved version. I mean, if there was an update between the approval and, me going out there and downloading the latest one, as we have seen, updates can often deliver malware through compromised code. And so by downloading it directly from here, I am confident that I am deploying what security has approved and what my team has approved.
Well, and that's an interesting point as well. When we talk about the consumer use case, there are a number of these that we think are actually very important and are not well defined at many organizations. Many organizations will use a questionnaire to initially select particular vendors for their software. But once it passes the questionnaire, it's all good after that. We don't really take that approach. We think that what you should be doing is validating each of the software that you deploy, each of those updates, each of those packages that come along, because this is the canonical example from SolarWinds. It was an upgrade that led to the compromise. So it's important to always be thinking about each piece of software that you might be deploying into your enterprise infrastructure. And so having a control method there is very important. And as we're saying, this applies both to distribution of software on the consumer side, but also distribution of releases on the publisher side, potentially. So it's a dual purpose use case. We also have workflows around this where you can actually later revoke. So there's a workflow where you can approve, you can not approve, or afterwards you might discover something, a new type of vulnerability is uncovered, where you could actually change state. And then of course it'll switch in terms of its availability. So we're keeping in mind the sort of overall workflows that will happen throughout this and making them very simple within our interfaces to access. So it kind of opens up a number of possibilities in terms of end-to-end workflows, especially on the consumer side for this feature.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I love seeing these workflows kind of that are dual purpose in terms of that use case, because even going back to the SolarWinds example, 3CX, other organizations that have experienced a software supply chain attack where components of their development have been compromised and breached. If they did this analysis beforehand, with their established workflow, they would say this is not approved, and they're able to go back and prevent brand damage, prevent damage to their customers, because no one wants to be the source of that, as we see it happening in the news almost weekly now.
All the time. So then kind of looking forward a little bit in terms of what's coming next. On the math side, a couple highlights. Previously, we talked about networking as an investment. The other investment that we've been making is on what we call kind of smart dynamic analysis. So what we do really well is static analysis, which is really fast, very complete. Dynamic can be a complement to that, but you should probably use static as your primary analysis and then complement with dynamic. One of the things that we've learned as we've started to integrate sandboxes with our solution is that in certain cases, it makes sense to start to take results from the sandbox and influence the classification that you perform. Similar to what I was talking about on the networking side, For each file that we analyze, we will give you a definitive classification based on a whole bunch of different data that we consider as part of it. What we're adding now is also considering results from other sandboxes and the RL Cloud sandbox that we incorporate into our solution. In certain cases, that can be the definitive answer. In many cases, it's not, but in some cases, it can be. And so factoring that into our classification, our file classification algorithm is very important. We're doing this first on the TIE Cloud side, and then it's going to percolate down to the A1000 or other solutions as well. So that's something that's in process and coming soon. The other one that's really exciting and visually appealing as well, I know you like this part, Richard, is the
colorful.
is the relationship graph. This is a feature that a number of customers have asked us for quite some time, a way to visualize how different files or different IOCs might be related to one another. We've had a lot of this data in our database. You know, we have those billions of files and we cross-correlate them and connect them together. But now you have a way of visualizing that. Where this can be important is when you want to understand if a particular malicious file might be associated with other parent files, for example, or if you want to understand if a particular file came from multiple sources. So there's a number of different ways that this graph functionality can be useful in visualizing, but it's especially powerful for hunting. So we'll have the first versions of this. We'll certainly be enriching it over time. It creates a sort of visual you see on the right where things become connected together and you can start to follow the different connections to figure out where the next point of investigation might make sense. It's something, like I said, we had a lot of this data before, but this visual really helps people to understand and interact with it. The third item that I wanted to call out is we talked a little bit about titanium scale earlier. Today, the limits on titanium scale are 2 gigabytes in terms of the files that it'll analyze. That's a pretty large number in general. Like most other solutions tend to be smaller, you know, 100 meg or a few hundred meg. So 2 gigabytes is large. We're actually expanding that even larger. The nice thing about our static analysis engine is the architecture is one that scales very highly. And so we can increase the size of files that we analyze. This has been driven primarily by customers that are using or assembling files that come in containers or other items like that, that kind of naturally collect a lot of other stuff. And we've seen this more and more. And so being able to increase that limit means you get coverage on things that no one else is looking at. And so it provides visibility and detection on a variety of risk items that may be within your domain. And so that's coming shortly in titanium scale.
We missed the opportunity for that meme of more to be here instead. 2 gig. I mean, 2 gigs is huge. You're right.
On the SSCS side, a couple of really cool things to call out. The first one coming soon is reproducible builds. This is an absolutely awesome feature. We think this is the way that you detect those most sophisticated attacks out there. If you think about the examples of SolarWinds or 3CX or companies like that, what reproducible builds does is, you know, for those highly security conscientious customers, if they have 2 build pipelines that are isolated from each other, we can compare the results of those build pipelines to determine if tampering occurred on either of the pipelines. In principle, that sounds very easy. In practice, it's actually pretty complicated, and you have to have a tool like ours that can look at differences, both in behaviors and other aspects of the different builds that are created to be able to sort this out. We're creating a very simple workflow to be able to do this, to be able to both visualize it and plug it into your existing CI/CD infrastructure. And this would give this sort of protection that will defeat all sorts of different types of attacks that could be out there. And so it's a very powerful solution, a very sophisticated one, but by simplifying it with the sort of interface that we're producing, we think it'll make it far more accessible to the entire community. So we're very excited about this. We will have some lead customers that will adopt this and sort of show this to the world eventually, because we really think it can make a big difference. The other one that we're in the process of working on now is an open source knowledge base. This is something where, as we all know, so many software solutions are made up of other pieces of open source. And while there has been a lot of coverage in those areas in terms of vulnerabilities, many of the things that we look at, things like malware, tampering, mitigations, et cetera, those tend not to be covered well by other solutions. So being able to give visibility into and reporting on different open source components and whether they might be compromised in some way, we think is critical to the industry. And so we're developing this open source knowledge base that people will be able to look at to determine if particular components are appropriate to use or have been compromised in some way. And we think this is really, we've blogged about this quite a bit in terms of looking at open source components from NPM, as illustrated here, or other places. This is a new attack vector that's becoming more and more common. And so education and awareness about this, we think, is really critical to making software more secure. So that's coming very soon. Finally, around workflows, for those of you that are familiar with our SSCS solution, we have a number of different ways to present and analyze data, kind of in an ad hoc way in what we call file stream, and a more structured way in what we call projects, which is close to the way you often organize from a publisher perspective in terms of your repositories. Having workflows to kind of seamlessly move between those two items is something that we're exploring. So this is within our portal, being able to very easily take results that you might have done in an ad hoc way and incorporate them into a particular project so that you can understand how they fit in the broader context. This is also tied to ways that we will start to talk about and visualize what's happening across your entire corpus. So those are areas of roadmap that we're currently working on, and we'll start to have the first versions of some of these items soon. So a lot of exciting stuff coming on the roadmap, both in terms of big changes in terms of security posture, awareness for everybody, and then just the day-to-day workflows that we need to continue to build on to make it really easy for people to incorporate our solution.
I appreciate that, Eirk. I appreciate you really diving into the technical sides of what's coming, as well as some of the elements on the SSCS side. Want to open up to any questions that anybody might have for either our malware analysis side or our software supply chain security side, recognizing that they are two different solutions that are being delivered and powered by the same core technology. But if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to toss them out here now. We'll stick around for a little bit. Nothing's coming in yet. But these kind of future forward thinking elements are very exciting. Now, for those of you that are curious when things are coming, just watch our blog, watch your email. We will be sending out email notifications for all of the new releases. If you're a new customer, we've got different tiered release kind of approaches to our product updates that are coming. And then if you're a user, you're on the malware analysis side and you're interested in diving into the software supply chain side, you want to get into seeing how that report looks. Maybe that kind of workflow works better for you or would help solve some problems on a different component or a different area of your business. We have trials, we have demos, we can walk you through it. You can give you a self-guided tour. Check out our website. We'll also include a link in the follow-up email that will be sent out on Friday for anyone interested in that. Always happy to show how else you can use our products and solutions. Doesn't look like there's any questions coming in. So ultimately, we are ReversingLabs. So we're here to help you uncover the unknown, know your threats, and deliver trust. We want you to feel confident in every component you're doing, be it malware analysis, threat hunting, or the software supply chain side. Appreciate you all sticking around with us, no matter what time it is in the day for you. See you next quarter.
Thank you.